Welcome back to the latest episode of UVC Chronicles. I'm Vakesan, and our guest for this episode is Mr. Harsha Shedbalkar from the batch of 2001 Mechanical.
So, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure, Vakesan. Thank you for having me. Glad to be here. I currently work as a product marketing manager in Intel, and I'm responsible for a product marketing of a technology solution called as Thunderbolt. And in a quick sentence, Thunderbolt is a simple, reliable, and the fastest way to connect data between PC and the accessories. Going back to my education and my previous work experience, I graduated from mechanical engineering in 2001 from the mechanical engineering department. After that, I graduated in 2001 when there was a dot-com bust. For some of you may not know about that, there was kind of an economic slowdown back in 2001. So I graduated during that time. And then I had an offer from Wipro Technologies. This was on campus placement. And Wipro deferred my joining indefinitely. So in the meantime, I was able to find a job at Dell, which had just recently, at that point of time, opened their office in Bangalore. I worked for Dell for about 8 months, and then when I got a joining date from Wipro, I joined Wipro as a systems analyst. Worked in Wipro for about 4.5 years, and then went to SUNY Buffalo, State University of New York at Buffalo for my MBA. I got my MBA in finance, and then I joined Intel, and I've been with Intel for the past 13 years. I joined Intel actually in India. I finished my MBA, came back to India, and joined Intel. And I worked in India for about 5 years. And then I had an opportunity to come work in Intel US. I came to US, and been here for about 8 years now. And I've done a variety of roles in Intel. I started in sales and marketing group on the business operations side, so I was involved in helping the local OEMs, the PC OEMs in India grow. At that point of time, we had HCL, we had Wipro, and we had Zenith Computers, who actually manufactured their own computers in India. I'm not sure if they exist anymore, but that was my first role. I did one other role at the Asia Pacific level when I was involved in market analysis of the markets there before I moved to US. In US, my first role was in the Worldwide Business Operations Group. I was responsible for market analysis of 4 different product lines. And while doing this, I realized that, I was making a lot of recommendations on the markets to chase and what our tactics should be, what our strategy should be to our management. But then, I didn't see these strategies being given shape. And so I thought the best way to do that would be to myself come to the business unit, be part of the business unit where I can drive these recommendations of mine to fruition. And I made a switch to the business unit and in the product marketing domain actually. So I've been in the product marketing domain for about 4.5 years now. And in these 4.5 years, I've done 3 different product marketing roles. So basically, in my 13 years at Intel, I've done a variety of roles across business operations and product marketing. And my current role is my 6th role. So Intel has given me a lot of flexibility to move, explore, learn. And I'm currently enjoying my stint here. And so that's basically about my work. And, I live in Folsom, which is near Sacramento in California. And my interests include reading, and I'm also begun investing as a long-term investor. So that's briefly about me, Vakesan.
Here's something that caught my attention. You mentioned about the Thunderbolt. So when you say Thunderbolt, just so that we are all on the same page, you're talking about the same plug, the USB-C thing that we use in our current devices, right?
That is right. So Vakesan, the Thunderbolt technology was kind of developed almost 10 years ago, by Intel and Apple. And it's a lightning logo that you see next to the USB port, right? So the Thunderbolt technology uses the USB-C connector on the side of your laptop or on a desktop. So it's a technology that tunnels several different protocols through this USB-C connector. So if you think about the USB 2, USB 3, USB 4, even the PCIe for data, and then the DisplayPort signals. So all of these different protocols, pass through this USB-C connector. So that's a cool thing. So it's just using just one Thunderbolt cable, you can connect to many different accessories, from your docks to external storages to 4K monitors. And if you think of external graphics, all the audio, video, visual equipments that people use for content creation, so all of these can be connected to this one port. And it's come a long way. Today it's found in 80 to 90% of the the laptops, both consumer and commercial, price $699 and above. And I'm talking about Windows PC here. It originally started on the Mac, the Apple ecosystem. Now it has proliferated very well on the Windows ecosystem as well. And even the Thunderbolt accessories like docks are now becoming more affordable. So in short, right, Thunderbolt is that technology solution that helps you connect your laptop and desktop to various different peripherals. So, and the cool thing about this is it's the fastest PC connection at 40 gigabits per bandwidth.
So this is exactly like what the USB did a few decades ago that we are doing right now. That's like really cool when you think about it. And also now that like, could you like elaborate a bit more about your current role at Intel?
Sure, Vakesan. So, I mentioned that I've been in the product marketing domain for about 4.5 years. And I joined my current role about 10 months ago. And I'm still learning. It's been a great journey. And if you think about the product marketing domain, the product marketing roles actually, what you do in these roles vary from company to company. And again, within the company, it may vary from group to group. So, in my case, maybe a little bit about the product marketing function itself before I tell you about my role. The product marketing function, at a high level, is about developing effective marketing strategies, plans, and tactics so that you're able to communicate the value, the features, and benefits of your product to the customers. And if you think about the product life cycle, right? So product marketing managers are involved right from the product definition phase to the product development, and finally, launch and also the post-launch activities. In my role specifically, so I'm responsible for a few things like defining the product value proposition and developing the message for the product, which is Thunderbolt. And I'm also involved in design win activities, which means working with the PC OEMs like HP, Dell, Lenovo, Acer, Asus, and many others, so that they design these Thunderbolt ports in their laptops and desktops. I'm also working with the engineering team for any kind of new marketing requirement. For example, if they want to implement a new feature or if they want to implement a new project, so I bring that feedback back into the group, basically kind of bringing the voice of the customer back into the business unit. I'm also involved in pricing, so we do our own pricing. So I'm also responsible for pricing, setting the pricing, managing all the pricing in the tools, and if the customers are asking for any kind of rebates or discounts, so we do that as well. I'm involved in supply allocation conversations. I train our sales teams, our marketing teams on the Thunderbolt, the new features. And I'm also responsible for engaging with our ecosystem partners, like, think about graphics vendors and even our competitors, when it comes to, the Thunderbolt. Specifically competitors because, Thunderbolt is now kind of an open source because Intel contributed Thunderbolt protocol specification. So any chip vendor, any chip manufacturer can actually develop a Thunderbolt, controller. So it's kind of a very broad role. It's kind of very interesting. I enjoy talking and kind of brainstorming on different aspects. So there is a lot of context switching in my day-to-day job. I mean, let's say an engineering discussion. From that discussion, I go to a pricing meeting, and then I'm in a supply allocation conversation, and then we're discussing about upcoming training events, and then planning for other Intel events. So it's kind of a multifaceted role that I'm really enjoying, that I had aspired to be in back in my engineering days.
Now, what you're saying is you're there from the inception of a product until it reaches the end user. So that means you're part of the whole process.
Yeah, so the roles vary from company to company and group to group. So in my case, in this in this particular role, I'm not involved in the product definition. I come very late into the product, kind of the development phase. So I'm looking at what the product is, what the capabilities are. Then I define the value proposition. Okay, how do we market this particular product, and how do we communicate those value propositions? What kind of message do we want to send to the, not only to the OEMs but also to the end consumers? So I'm involved from starting product development, but all about messaging, all about getting those design wins from the customers, and then launching the product itself. And once we launch the product, making sure that there is kind of a ramp in the adoption, and then working with the educating the retailers, working with kind of having those promotional material out for the end consumers. So
Working around product values, the MBA in finance that you did would have definitely helped you. But what was it that made you select this path in the first place? And what do you think about it now?
sure. When I was doing my engineering, I realized that I wanted to be in a role that was multifaceted, right? I used to be part of the team that organized a lot of the events in UVCE. If I don't know if Milagro still exists, if it is called the same way. So it used to be the cultural, annual fest that we used to conduct in the college. And then we were involved in planning the final year tour in the mechanical engineering department, and various other activities included in the even in the placement office. So when I was in engineering, I realized that I didn't want to sit in a cube in a corner office and do work on my own. I wanted a role where I was interacting with people, where I was doing some program management, where I was trying to give shape to something that I could, in terms of kind of organizing and coordinating. So I wanted to kind of be in a role where there was people interaction. And then I realized that the way to do that would be to kind of get an MBA. And so I consulted some of my seniors. I knew some folks who worked in the industry. So I spoke to them, and they gave me an advice, which was to get some work experience before I did my MBA. So that way I would get more value out of the MBA education. So yeah, so I decided back during my engineering days that I wanted to get an MBA. So like I said, I worked for Dell a little bit, and then Wipro, and then I started appearing for the CAT exams. I couldn't crack into the IIMs, and after about 3 years of experience, I realized that by the time I got into the next batch of MBA, I probably would have about a little over 4.5 years of experience. So I started thinking about why not look at foreign universities. So I thought about going international, and so started looking at different countries, and then I settled on US, because US is where there's a lot of innovation in terms of business. There's a lot of learning. There's a lot of a lot of the new industries have evolved in the US. So I thought it's good to get an MBA, in this country, and then so I came to US for my MBA, and I joined State University of New York, SUNY Buffalo, also called as UB, University of Buffalo, for my MBA. So while I did my major in finance, Vakesan, I also took classes in operations and marketing. So those were my kind of the minors. So I kind of got a holistic, comprehensive um, understanding of the business when I was doing my MBA, and which is what all my roles have reflected in at Intel as well. So it's just not finance; it's just not about sales and marketing, but it goes beyond those specific domains.
That is really insightful. We did have an online Milagro this year, so we have very much been keeping the tradition going.
Oh, that's very cool.
And your MBA seems to have helped you out a lot.
Yeah, certainly. It kind of opened doors to the career that I am in today, and also has enabled me to use some of the basics, some of the background knowledge that I learned in MBA program, and it's also kind of opened my mind to new businesses, new ways of thinking. So yeah, certainly, I would definitely say MBA has added a lot of value not only to my professional life but also to my personal life.
Okay, so like we all know, there's been a global semiconductor shortage all around the world. Could you explain it to us, people out here who do not understand what it is, as to why it happened and how, like, it might, uh, like, what are its implications?
I can attempt that. I know so I'll definitely try that. um, think about it this way. Let's say when the pandemic started last year, a lot of the factories had to be shut down or had to run at very low capacities. So you were getting very low output. And it didn't matter then because even the demand had dropped, right? So demand had dropped, supply was not there. So somehow it worked out. And later on, when the demand came back and it came back in like in a full swing, uh, it took a while. It's taking a while, in fact, for the supply to catch up. Right now, everybody's demanding cars. Everybody wants to buy the new cars, but the new cars has so much of technology in it. It's all driven by these semiconductor chips, and I know just not the cars. Think about all the consumer electronics. Think about all the PCs, the phones, and every single thing. There's so much of semiconductor in it, and every single industry is asking for more and more chips. And it's taken some time for these companies to ramp up the production, and the demand is so high that you have whatever capacity that you lost, you cannot regain that. You cannot, your utilization can only be so much. At best you go up to 100%, maybe in some cases a little over that, but there's no way you can go to 150% or 200% by adding more people, right? Because you have all those equipments, big equipments, huge factories. You cannot add more overnight or even in a matter of few weeks or months or quarters. So that's what kind of clogged the supply. And so hopefully things will improve in the next few quarters. What I hear is it could take well into 2022 for some of these supply chain constraints to ease out. So but hopefully that gave you I was able to share at least some of what I know.
As a tech enthusiast, this hits too close to home. I hope we make a strong comeback from this. Anyway, thank you very much for taking out your time for our podcast and sharing your invaluable experiences with us.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you, audience, for listening. And stay tuned for the next one.